Hello everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. It is a rainy, wet day here in the mountains in Tennessee. And so I thought that we would go over some pros and cons of water culture. Here is little buddy. He is in rapt attention because my husband is holding some chicken right here. So pros and cons of water culture today. I've been growing orchids now for about 15 years, and I've been growing in the water culture method for 2. So I'm going to tell you about my experience with water culture. First off, full water culture, I'm referring to about 1/3 of the roots being down in the water most of the time. For semi-water culture, I'm referring to about 2/3, which would be up to about right here. 2/3 of the roots being in the water for about 2 days, and then the roots setting dry for about 4 or 5 days. Full water culture can also be used as a temporary growing method for orchids that are dehydrated when you buy them. You can place them in water culture for a week or so until that plant just perks up and rehydrates, and then you can repot it in the media of your choice. Okay, so one of the pros is the setup. What you're going to need is a glass, ceramic, or a plastic color-fast container that fits the roots and supports the plant well. The other thing that you're going to need is excellent quality water. I use triple reverse osmosis filtered water with a pH of about 6.0 to 6.5. I've tried different types of water. I've tried tap water. I've tried distilled water. And I like the reverse osmosis filtered water the best. So this is the type I like to use in my environment. The con about your setup is you're going to maybe need some backup media just in case you need it. If all of the media doesn't come off the roots when you are bare rooting your orchid, if you have some stubborn bark or some moss that just won't soak off the roots, then I recommend you repot that orchid back in media. It will rot if the roots have media in the water culture. If you have that stray piece of bark or moss stuck to a root, that will rot if it's in water most or all of the time. The skill level for growing in water culture I would call advanced. If you've never grown orchids before, I suggest that you learn to grow an orchid in bark or in moss or another media first, because this does require experience. You have to know what you're looking at. A really important thing to keep in mind, especially with your Phalaenopsis orchids in water culture, is when it works, it's great. And when it doesn't, oh, it can be really bad with all the rotting roots. So when it doesn't work, I just recommend you repot it back in media. This looks like an easy growing method, but with phals, keep in mind you're taking about a 50% chance that it's going to work. So just keep that in mind. With my Dendrobium phalaenopsis orchids, I think that as a collection, they have grown very, very well in water culture. They've bloomed well and they have grown well. So I don't know if it's because I had some experience. I had been growing in water culture quite a while before I bought these. And I believe that probably my experience with water culture probably ensured their success. But they have done very well in a semi-water culture method. And my Vandas, as you know, they get a 24-hour soak every 5 days, and it's worked really well for them. They have bloomed beautifully and they have grown really, really well. So I bought these bare rooted in these glass vases. So if you can find an orchid that's already bare rooted, that might have some indication of its success later on with the method as well, because these have done very well. Another thing to know is that molds and algae will most likely grow in your water culture. In my experience, they don't harm anything. I don't let them grow rampant, but I found that when I give them a few wet, dry cycles every week, the mold and the algae just doesn't get out of control. When I first started letting the algae just kind of grow and not clean it out of my vases immediately, I thought that my vases would turn green. I've not cleaned out this vase for months, and you can see it does not grow rampant in this vase. So that has been a really interesting thing for me. And another thing you need to be aware of is water culture is an experimental method. It requires you to experiment with water levels. And you also have to figure out what type of water culture is best suited for your orchids in your environment. For instance, my phals are in water culture with a few dry days a week. My dendrobiums are in a semi-water culture. If I was going to put a Cattleya in water culture, it would definitely be a semi-water culture method. And then my Vandas, like I said before, they have one 24-hour soak every 5 days. So it does take some time and patience and experience to learn what type of water culture is going to be the best suited for you and for your orchids. Also, you need to be aware that if you live in an area where there are a lot of mosquitoes, I recommend that you grow in some type of a media. I know growers who have had the problem with mosquito larvae. So you don't want to grow in water culture if mosquitoes are an issue in your area. Also, I grow all of my water culture orchids inside all year long, including summer, because I know that water culture, if I grew them outside in water culture, that's going to be a perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes. So keep that in mind. If you're interested in watching me fertilize and water my water culture Phalaenopsis orchids, I have this video available, and this is the fertilizing regimen that I use pretty much all year around. And of course, the biggest pro about water culture is you get to watch the roots grow, and it really is fascinating. So my best advice to those of you who are interested in trying water culture is to try one orchid, not your favorite orchid, or an orchid that you can replace, not an orchid that's been in your collection for a while. Try it on a new purchase and one that you can easily replace if you need to. The healthier, the better it will do in water culture. So my next video, I'm going to answer the question, which media or growing method is my favorite one? So stay tuned, and you all be highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed. And thank you all so much for watching.